A 1-week-old Model X on a school run. The Falcon wing door lifts a third of the way, stops dead, and decides something is in the way. Nothing is in the way. 2 toddlers in car seats, a boot full of shopping bags, and the kids ended up climbing through between the front seats to get out. 7 days of ownership, and the owner was already watching door recalibration tutorials on YouTube. That post is where this video starts, because I wanted to know one specific thing. Which Tesla gives you the least grief in the first 12 months, the year where you're still paying the highest installment and still expecting the thing to behave like a new car? Quick thing before we get going. I haven't driven any of these. What I've done is read what thousands of people who live with them every day have written. The forum threads that run for years, the recall notices, the complaint databases, and the posts people write the week they hand the keys back. As of July 2026, this is where things stand. And with Tesla, things move faster than with anyone else because half the car is software. One thing to set up before the ranking. Every serious source lands on the same split. The bits meant to be hard, battery, motors, power electronics, are durable. High-mileage Model 3 owners routinely report 150 to 200,000 miles with modest range loss and no drive unit work. What breaks, creaks, and glitches is everything around the battery. Suspension bushes, door hardware, seals, screens. So when you hear Tesla reliability, you're hearing about the traditional car parts, not the electric ones. Right. Cleanest first. Number 5, and the least troublesome of the lot, the Model 3. The refreshed car, the one people call Highland, has around 280 complaints logged with the U.S. regulator across the 2024 to 2026 years and 6 recall campaigns. For a car selling in those numbers, that's a quiet record by Tesla standards. What owners complain about in year 1 surprised me. It isn't failure, it's adaptation. The stock list controls, indicators on the wheel, gear selection on the screen come up constantly. Owners describing misinputs at roundabouts until the muscle memory rewires. Road noise on the 19 and 20-inch wheels. Screen freezes that need a reboot. Camera calibration wobbles that switch autopilot off until an update lands. Some early Highland owners mention suspension creaks in hard cold while the new dampers bed in. Battery degradation reported at roughly 2 to 4% by 30,000 kilometers. That's nothing. Now, deep cold. The Canadian Motoring Association ran a proper real-world test between Ottawa and Mont-Tremblant. 14 electric cars, temperatures between -7 and -15. The Model 3 lost about 30% of its range. Middle of the pack. Not class-leading, but it took on 205 kilometers in a 15-minute fast charge, which was the quickest in the test. That's the trade in cold weather, and it's a reasonable one. The short trip figure is the ugly one nobody prints. 10 minutes from a frozen driveway, and the car spends most of its energy heating itself, not moving you. Owners in Ontario and the north of England describe 40 and 50% losses on the school run, then sensible numbers on a 100-mile motorway stint the same week. Same car. Number 4, the Model Y. More owners than the rest of the range combined, which means more noise and more real data. And the picture splits hard depending which source you trust, which is itself the finding. Recent year owners in the U.S. report high satisfaction and very little that leaves you stranded. Meanwhile, a large European roadworthiness inspection dataset put the Model Y dead last among 2 to 3-year-old cars. Defect rate north of 17%. Roughly 1 in 6 failing on something. Brakes, suspension, build quality. I read that twice because those two things sound like different cars. They aren't. Both are true. What comes up again and again in year 1? Clunks over bumps, uneven tire wear, brake vibration, early rotor corrosion on cars that lean on region instead of the pads. Then the fit and finish list. Misaligned tailgate, panel gaps, water finding its way into the boot. A light bar that left the factory sitting crooked. Rattles from the rear seat. Wind whistle around the mirrors. The recall side has been busy. Late 2025 brought a campaign on around 13,000 2025 and 2026 cars for a battery pack contactor that could open on the move and cut drive power. Tesla estimated roughly 1% of those cars carried the defect. Then nearly 15,000 2025 and 2026 Model Ys for a missing certification label, which sounds trivial until you realize it can't be fixed over the air. A technician has to physically inspect the car. Horn ground wires, seatback fasteners, a washer hose connector. Winter, the Model Y does well, around 86% of normal range retained at freezing in a study covering more than 30,000 real cars. Near the top of the electric pack. Family reality is where owners are warmest. The boot swallows a pram plus a shop. The rear doors open wide. The flat floor makes child seats easy. That's why a lot of these get bought, and it holds up. But here's where it gets more expensive. Number 3, the Model S. The hardware is largely carryover from 2022 onwards, so the genuinely nasty early problems, first-generation media units, failing door handles, are behind it. What replaces them is a car so quiet, you hear everything that isn't perfect. Owners describe creaking over road imperfections, and the phrasing that keeps recurring is that the silence is what exposes it. Then the air suspension clunks over speed bumps and during low-speed steering, usually traced to control arm bushes or end links. On 21-inch wheels, the ride goes crashy. Inner edge wear on the rear tires from camber and toe, which an alignment sorts. Inside warranty, an inconvenience. Outside it, suspension and control arm work on the S and X has been reported at roughly $1,500 to $3,000 per corner. Call it $1,100 to £2,300, or around $2,300 to $4,600 Australian as of mid-2026. Parts availability slows it further. The compensation is real though. In cold weather data, the S and X held roughly 88 to 89% of their range at freezing, the best in the Tesla lineup, and better than most electric cars full stop. If you're doing long winter motorway runs in Alberta or the Scottish Highlands, that's the number that matters to you more than anything else in this video. Number 2, the Model X. And it's the doors. Production has ended, with remaining cars sold from inventory, so this is one you'll mostly meet used. The Falcon wing doors are the party trick and the permanent headache. Heavy, double-hinged, stuffed with obstacle sensors, living exactly where rain, grit, and road salt collect. The failure modes owners describe are consistent across a decade of builds. Door stops halfway insisting on an obstacle that isn't there, won't close flush, clicks repeatedly, rubs the bodywork and wears the paint and the seal, which then gives you wind noise at motorway speed and on older cars, water ingress. By 2026, plenty of first and second owners have had at least one door adjustment or repair on the record. And I'll be fair, because balance here is discovered, not decided in advance. Under that Stranded Toddlers post, another owner with a 2024 X said they absolutely love the doors for car seats, and their advice was to keep going back to service until they're right. That's a real experience too. Same doors. Beyond them, air suspension leaks and compressor failures as miles build, weak cabin heat, creaks from the frameless glass. An out-of-warranty pack replacement has been reported in the $12,000 to $18,000 bracket, roughly £9,000 to £14,000, or $18,000 to £27,000 Australian, though it's rare, and Tesla fleet data suggests S and X packs often sit near 88% capacity around 200,000 miles, which brings us to number 1, the Cybertruck. And this isn't close. 8 recall campaigns inside 18 months of launch, including one in 2025 covering 46,000 trucks, very nearly everyone built to that point, for an exterior panel that could detach while driving. Then the ownership stories. One owner documented 50 days in service over a persistent squeak, 40 of them consecutive, parts replaced, insulation added, squeak still there. Other owners in the same group reported the same noise and the same dead end. A Californian owner posted this year about a red critical rear axle error appearing 3 times since the previous summer. Told it was software. His wife got the same error driving home, reset the car twice, made it back. He then couldn't get a service slot for 2 to 3 weeks. And that's the part that would put me off. Personally, not the fault itself. Every car has faults. It's the weight and the sense of a queue you can't jump. In an urban market with 3 service centers you might never notice. Somewhere regional, that's your only vehicle sitting on the driveway. Money, briefly, because it's brutal. A Foundation Series bought for about $102,000 in March 2024 went to auction with 800 miles on it, and the top bid landed at $69,000. Another owner reported taking $88,000 for one with under 3,000 miles, roughly $30,000 gone in 2 months. The truck isn't sold outside North America, which is why that one's in dollars only. Now the ex-owner, and this is the most useful voice in the video because he has nothing to protect. An early Cyberbeast owner, one of the very first deliveries, Vin29, spent 2.5 years with the truck, reached just over 19,000 miles, and went through repeated breakdowns and service visits. Tesla agreed to buy it back without lemon law proceedings, full refund. He called it one of the strangest ownership experiences of his life. And here's the bit that makes him credible rather than bitter. He says he'll miss it, and he'll buy another one day. He's waiting for an updated version because what he could buy in 2026 looked very similar to what he bought in 2024. He also cracked his own windscreen by standing on it and slipping, and he says so himself. That's an honest man, not a hater. 2 caveats, because I'd rather tell you than guess. Complaint counts are raw numbers, not rates per vehicle. So a model selling 400,000 a year will always outcomplain one selling 20,000. Read every ranking with that in mind, including mine. And I went looking for a clean extreme heat pattern from Australian and Texan owners. A car park at 45 degrees, glass roof, aircon under load. What I found was mostly cabin glare and filters needing attention sooner in dusty use. Not enough to call it a pattern. I'm flagging it, not claiming it. So, Model 3 cleanest, then Model Y, then Model S, then Model X, then the Cybertruck by a distance. If you own one, what's your climate and what's your single complaint? That's the comment I actually want. Ex-owners especially, why did you sell and what replaced it? And if you're deciding between the 3 and the Y this week, tell me which way you're leaning. The Y is the useful part. We went through Model Y running costs recently, and it connects straight to the depreciation numbers here. The car most people cross-shop against these. That's next week. That's the picture as it stands. Whatever you land on, buy it with your eyes open. See you in the next one.